Hey there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. Obviously, this is not a blues lesson. We are doing a hard rock lesson, hard rock soloing lesson using two-handed tapping techniques. And so I kind of want to give you a basic overview of what they are and how they work. And I'm going to show you a couple of things that you can kind of experiment with just to sort of bring them into the fold. Now, obviously, I'm known for teaching a lot of blues stuff. There are very few blues players that use this technique. I totally get that. It's definitely kind of a 70s, 80s rock thing, right? Eddie Van Halen kind of started this all off. From there, we've just been going. So let's talk about how we actually do it. Now, you might notice that I use my middle finger on my right hand. So the simplest thing to start with, we got to turn the volume up. We got to have some overdrive because we're not going to be able to really articulate this, right? We can't pick this note because we're using our picking hand to fret the note. So let's try something simple. Let's start with a just on the top string, just a tap. Now again, like I said, I use my middle finger. So I'm going to pluck the 8th note, or the 8th fret. I'm thinking A minor, box 1. And again, any box will do. I'm just trying to keep it simple. So I'm going to strike that 8th fret, and I'm going to do a hammer-on with my middle finger of my right hand. Many people would pick that, switch their pick over to their middle finger, and tap it with their first finger, including Eddie Van Halen, right? He was a first finger tapper, and obviously, that's probably the biggest name associated with this technique. A lot of people do it. In fact, almost everybody at some point. Some people use their middle finger and hold on to the pick in the traditional way. Some people switch the pick over, use the first finger. I really don't think there's any issue with either one. I can't see any benefit to either option. So absolutely do what's most comfortable. Some people use multiple fingers, okay? You can get really crazy with this stuff. I'm not going to do that in this video. But you can get really crazy with this stuff. And some people use, Jeff Watson was famous for his 8-finger tapping technique where he would use all 4 fingers and 2 or 3 fingers on this hand and get all kinds of crazy stuff. So it can get way out there, but we're not going to do that. Let's start really simple. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the 8th fret, tap the 10th, pull off to the 8th, pull off to the 5th. Okay, so there's my pattern. And you'll notice when I do that pull off, right, you can see me sort of go down like that. I'm basically trying to kind of flick the string. That's the advantage of pull-offs in general. If I do it on the 2nd string, you'll see that I tend to come up. The 1st string is the only one where I tend to go down. If I was on the 3rd string, it'd be 7, 9, 7, 5. And it's different because there's different notes in the A minor pentatonic scale here. So I have the top, the middle. I can do this all day long. Now, obviously, the tricky part there is in switching strings because I can't pick. I can't pick a different string. My right hand picking hand is busy. So we do what is commonly called a hammer-on from nowhere. So I hammered on that note at the 8th fret of the 2nd string from nowhere. I just hit it. And because I have enough gain, I have enough overdrive, I have enough compression to do that, it works out. So again, here's my 8, 10, 8, 5, 8, 10, 8, 5, 7, 9, 7, 5. Right? And you could double some of those. there's a lot of, chaos can ensue from this very quickly. But this is a way to start to bring this into your playing. I would not try to get crazy with it at first. This is a pattern. A lot of times we use patterns with stuff like this. If you think about, I call that the eruption pattern because obviously it's from eruption, but I can do it here too. Okay, so that's a pattern where it's like 10, 5, 8, 10. And as you go faster and faster, and that pattern tends to work very well when we have some sort of arpeggio. In the case of eruption, where I'm doing that is this note right here is a C sharp. This is a C sharp, E, and F sharp. Sorry, G sharp. So it's a C sharp minor arpeggio. When I go to here, it becomes an A. And this is the A, this is the C sharp and the E. C sharp minor, A. And I'm not going to get into that whole thing right now, but that's a really common pattern, as opposed to, right, something like that from Crazy Train. Right, so I'm going to have my F sharp again on my second string, 7th fret, 10th fret, and here's the 14th fret. And again, that's an F sharp minor arpeggio. And again, there's a pattern there. So I've got tap, tap. So the high note down, so that which is the 14th fret, 14 pulls off to 10, 14 pulls off to 10, that pulls off down to the 7 and back. So that's another really common pattern. Now, as much as I hate to admit it, believe it or not, timing matters for this stuff too, right? I'm doing very, very fast sequences though, so it's almost impossible to subdivide this stuff. But if you listen, if you have my beat like 1 and 2 and 1, you'll notice that I'm tapping at the same point in the beat all the time. So things like that, obviously I'm not going to be able to count that out, but you get a feel for it fairly quickly. Just be mindful. I know I talk about the beat and the timing and the counting a lot, and typically I would tell you to count this stuff out loud, but how are you going to count out, 6 or 8 notes in the span of one beat? That's going to be really, really tough, but you can use the mark. You know where the downbeat is. You know what note should be playing at that point. You try to get it evenly spaced out and you make it work. Now there's one other little trick. Those two patterns are probably, I'll say, the most common. I certainly use them the most. And this idea here that I do on the pentatonic scale, and I could do that on any box. And I'm basically just climbing up. So it's just that same pattern. And if I know my pentatonic scale on one string, or maybe add in a couple of other notes, but I can continue to move that right hand around. But another really, really fun trick, if you take a note and bend it, now I have a couple of really excellent bends in box 1, right? On the 3rd string, we do it all the time, and on the 2nd string, we do it all the time. You got to think ahead a little bit, but This works more often than not, so a lot of times I'll just try it, and if I don't like the sound, I'll just kind of remember don't do that anymore. Because like I said, most of the time it seems to work. If I bend a note up and I like the sound of it bent, sorry, I can tap the note 3 frets away and I will like the sound of it. So you can see I'm just tapping sort of any note from any box. If I dig the bend, then I'm probably gonna like 3 frets away. And it's the same as doing like, you know, that with one hand, but it sounds different because I'm doing it with the tap of the right hand. There's a lot of things that you can mess around with here. And this is something where obviously I don't have a specific lick, and I didn't want to give you a specific lick because I have found that if you experiment with this a little bit and you start to play around with it, right? If you already know the A minor pentatonic boxes probably, and if you don't, this is a technique you shouldn't be playing with anyway. It's probably out of your reach right now, but you know, keep practicing. It's not going to take forever. This is not a super difficult thing. It's just that in order to use it, you don't want to be thinking too much about what notes are available to you. So you want to have your scales under your fingers pretty well. So once you have that, if you start playing around with it and experimenting with some of these patterns, you're going to find certain ideas are easy for you, easier, I'll say. And some ideas are really challenging. They don't make as much sense to you. The ones that don't make as much sense to you, don't use. It's really kind of that simple. This is sort of how you develop your style. If I throw out 10 different ideas and you pick those 2 that you love, that's your style. The things that work for you, the things that feel comfortable for you, the things that you're less likely to make mistakes doing, those are your things. Now, if you really love something and you really want to incorporate the sound, but it's really hard for you, well, then you have motivation to practice on it and you'll get it down. But if there's things that you're like, well, I should learn that, but I really don't love it and I really don't care, you're not going to learn it. And that's totally fine. That's what makes your style. That's why I threw out a bunch of different ideas today. And I want you to play with all of them. Give them a shot. By the way, you know, as far as blues guys, it does occur to me that I do hear Walter Trout use this every once in a while. So there's a blues rock guy that I do sometimes hear use that right hand. He'll tap something. I've seen him do that in concert a couple times. So it's not that you can't use it in a blues context. You absolutely can. I wouldn't be doing this kind of stuff in a blues. It's not really going to make sense, but it's a lot of fun in a rock context. So play with it, have some fun with it. As always, I'm Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed. If you have guitar playing friends that you think might get something out of this video, I hope you'll share it with them. I hope this gives you some ideas, some things to play with. If nothing else, just try to get some real simple just play around with trying to get some notes to actually come out. You will, depending on how much you do it, you may actually get a little bit of a callus on that middle or that first finger, depending on which one you tap with. So it might get a little tender on the first few days, just like this hand did, this hand will. So be aware of that. It's not a problem. It's totally fine. It's just part of the game. So try it out, have some fun with it, and I'll see you again real soon. Take care.